All right. Hello, hello. Welcome, welcome. Happy fall. As I'm recording this, it is Wednesday, November 5th. And I live here in the Pacific Northwest in Oregon, and we live in the temperate rainforest. So it's really beautiful with the fall foliage and the fog and the rain, and just a really good reminder of the season we're in. So if you're here, you can always say hi in the chat. You can ask questions. I'm going to start a presentation here in a moment. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and dive in. So I'm going to share my screen here. Let's see here. This is my first YouTube live, so I'm getting the kinks worked out. All right, here we go. There we go. Okay, share. If you don't know me, by the way, my name is Brittany, and I'm an Ayurvedic health counselor, yoga teacher, and the founder of Earth Intuitive. This is a business for helping women reconnect with their bodies through one-on-one work. I also have groups through the science and the lens of Ayurveda. So let's talk about Ayurveda for just a moment before we dive into the presentation. So Ayurveda is this ancient form of holistic health and medicine from India that's about 3,000 to 5,000 years old. And it comes from these ancient scriptures called the Vedas. These are actually the oldest known to man spiritual scriptures of downloaded insights about how to live well, how to stay healthy, how to become enlightened, if that was something you wanted to do at the time. And for those of you who don't know what Ayurveda is, I like to describe it as the sister science of yoga. So yoga really focuses on the breath and the body and the movement and really balancing our prana, our life force energy, right? And it's a little bit more physical and energetic. Ayurveda kind of expands that whole concept into every part of your life. So your daily routine, the foods that you eat, the herbs that nourish your body, the seasons, living with the seasons. And today we're really going to lean on that as we're in the fall. So we're officially in the fall here in the Northern Hemisphere. And hi, if you're joining, you could say hello, where you're calling in from. We are in fall here in the Northern Hemisphere. And so in Ayurveda, this is called our Vata time of the year. So let's just go ahead and get into the presentation. I'll try to stay on top of the chat if you have questions or comments, and let's get into it. Okay. Okay, here we go. Thanks for your patience. Workshop is called Inward Tending, Holistic Health Tips for Fall and Winter. And I'm going to be sharing quite a bit of information today, but I want you to realize that this is just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more to learn, to experience. And so may this just be an opening for you. Maybe some of you have heard of Ayurveda. Maybe you know a little bit about it. Maybe you've been curious to hear more about it. So this is just a tiny introduction, and there's so much more. But Ayurveda is really geared toward the seasons of our life, the seasons of the year, and the seasons of whatever we're going through, right? In our body, the age we are, where we're living. It's very environmental, and it's always, always, always connected to nature. Okay. So I'd like for us to actually start in a meditation. And if you have a notebook nearby, you could take notes throughout this presentation. You can always just watch this again if something piqued your interest. Said and sit back. Of course, obviously, if you're driving or busy, you could do this later. We'll just do a nice short meditation. So sitting back, roll your shoulders back, take a nice deep breath in through the nose, out through the mouth. Feel your sit bones rooted on your chair. Feel your spine nice and full, or maybe you're leaning back and you can just enjoy gravity, that sense of being held. Feel your feet firmly on the floor, or if you're sitting where your feet are off the floor, really feel into your sit bones rooting down. And just for a moment, I'd like you to just let go of whatever else you're doing, whatever you had going on before this workshop, whatever you have to do after, just let that go, almost like we're in a yoga practice together. We're really drawing all of our attention here and now. And start to notice the crown of the head all the way down the face and the throat, relaxing. Back of the side of the tailbone, relaxing. Chest, belly, your sit bones relax all the way down your legs, right leg and left leg. And just feel almost as if your skin and your muscles are melting toward the floor just a little bit, just releasing that tension, that urgency, gathering all of your energy back into yourself here. And really start to deepen your breath. Taking 3 more breaths here, drawing the awareness down the body toward the hips and the legs and the feet. One more deep breath here. Exhale out. Slowly start to come back. And if you have a specific reason why you're here or something you want to know or learn about, you can either just state it to yourself or you can put it in the chat. Okay. All right. So in the Northern Hemisphere, we are in November. We're kind of in the midst of fall and then heading toward the beginning of winter. This is Vata season. What is Vata? So Vata is one of the 3 doshas in Ayurveda. Doshas are probably one of the more popular terms that people may know about with Ayurveda. And if you don't, that's totally fine. There's so much more to Ayurveda than the doshas. But essentially, the doshas translate to imbalance. And so it can be, patterns in our body, energetic patterns, elemental patterns, where if we have too much of something, it can cause health symptoms. So in this case, Vata is the combination of air and ether, space, essentially. So each dosha is made up of a couple of different elements that have positive effects and negative effects. And so if we look at Vata, excuse me, if we look at Vata from a positive lens of, what is it in its super refined, pure state? That is prana. And you may have heard of prana. Prana is our energy in our body, and we could control that and change our prana through our breath. Also, what we choose to consume. So, prana comes in, it comes out. Um, it's basically movement in the body. It's this energetic movement in the body. Vata is very mobile, and it's that which moves in our body. Vata is also really, really associated with our nervous system. And so those who have some Vata imbalance may experience restlessness, anxiety, brain fog, things like that. We'll get into that in a moment of really diving into the Vata archetype. Vata is this process of cold and dry. So it's like this cold, this cooling, drying effect that happens in the transition from summer to fall and fall to winter. So all we have to do is look outside and observe. And we see Vata all around us, right? We see the leaves getting brittle and then falling away. It's almost like this decaying, this dying process. But in that process, there's so much beauty. Also, during this time of year, especially, we just had Halloween in Celtic tradition. This is called Samhain. And this was a wheel of the year celebration to acknowledge the liminal space. So, in other words, our ancestors are more near, the veils are thin, right? So, that's more of a spiritual, energetic viewpoint. But it makes sense because if you think about the fall, everything is sort of like coming toward death in nature. And then when we finally arrive at that place of winter, there's stillness. There's everything is underground and quiet or sleeping. So this dying process, which I know may sound morbid, but it actually can be quite beautiful because it reflects all of life. We all, are going to die someday. We're all born. There's all these beautiful cycles of life. And so when we're in the Vata season, things are going to be cooling off and drying up. So this can affect our physical body. It obviously affects our mind. And it also represents a lot of endings. So we're really entering into endings of the year. And then with that too, this is not Ayurvedic, but we're also in a 9-year in numerology in Tarot, which is the Hermit card. This is the ending of a big cycle in life. 2026 is going to be a lot of new beginnings. We're kind of like starting a whole new cycle in 2026. So we're really, really feeling that Vata energy. We're really like moving toward death. For some of you, you might have had some endings, big changes in your life. I had massive changes in my life this year, massive changes in my career, all positive, but that process can feel really unknown, really uncertain, really liminal, and that can bring up anxiety and fear. So that's kind of more of a bigger overview of Vata. And then let's get into what this looks like more on a physical level as an archetype. Okay, great. So I love these drawings. This is from the California College of Ayurveda. All of us have Vata, Kapha, and Pitta. We're not going to get to those two today. We're just going to focus on Vata today. And this is good because Vata, they call it the king of doshas, meaning this is the dosha that often goes out of balance the most, especially during this time of year. Vata, again, we look at it as movement, cooling, and drying. So let's think about some things in life that could represent Vata. So if you travel a lot, that's a lot of movement, right? Not a lot of ground beneath you. There's a lot of air and ether and space. Maybe you fly a lot or you're, moving around a lot. That there's not a lot of time to develop those roots. That's very Vata. Another thing in our culture that is very Vata is technology. So Vata is also about communication and, the things that are unseen, essentially, right? It's not earth, it's not fire, it's not water, it's air and space. And so this is talking on the phone, using your computer, doing your chats with your coworkers. This is text messaging. This is social media. This is so huge in our culture today. And I think and I think you probably would agree that we are in a Vata imbalance in our world today. We are, moving here and there, a lot of communication online. There's a whole separate world online that's not tied to our physical reality here and now. It's almost like two worlds. And so, because of this, we're losing our connection to the earth. We're losing our connection to those natural cycles of nature. And so, Ayurveda helps us come back and just recognize, wow, we're kind of living in a very airy time. Let's come back and anchor that so that we feel better and we're more regulated and we feel more grounded. Okay, so coming into the explanation of Vata dosha. Okay, so like I said, it's cold, it's dry, and it's also light. Just think about a leaf that has gone through its transformation. It's red, it's beautiful, but it becomes crispy, right? Once it hits the ground after a few days, it starts to wither away. Um, in your own body. So let's say you have an irregular appetite, you don't have a daily routine that's consistent, you feel a little bit all over the place. That is a really good definition of Vata. It's not consistent. You think about air and space, there's no consistency there. There's no earth, there's no roots, right? So we always want to treat a Vata imbalance first. As a practitioner, that's what I do with folks. If you're having a lot of Vata imbalance, that's where we start. So with air, there's no foundation. It's ever moving, ever changing. It's the least grounded out of all the doshas. But let's not just look at the negative, right? So having a lot of air and space is also a recipe for creativity, new ideas, excitement, connected to something higher than yourself, whether you believe in God, spirit, your higher self, your ancestors. A lot of artists and innovators have this connection to the imaginal realm, the invisible realm. So I would say, if you're really feeling healthy in that creativity, that's just a lot of prana. So that's a really, really great thing. If there's too much air, though, right, and we're feeling imbalanced, this is how it can manifest in your body. You could feel flighty, anxious, or restless, not able to keep plans, or just being inconsistent with getting back to people. You could have a really sensitive nervous system. You could be forgetful, scattered, irregular, fearful, even, or prone to being overwhelmed, right? Too much Vata, too much stimuli, not enough earth, not enough rest, not enough grounding. This is what can happen. In our body, it could look like irregular appetite. You're not really sure when you're hungry. You may not feel hungry. You forget to eat. Constipation, because our colon is dried up from all the excess air. The colon is a huge area for Vata to live. So if you're experiencing constipation, and by the way, if you travel, some of you may experience constipation. There's a reason for that, because you're being removed from your daily routine and your comfort zone, and you're in a new place and your body just reacts. Like, even if you feel fine, a lot of folks might experience that constipation the first day or two when traveling. This could look like dry skin, rashes that are more dry in nature, premature wrinkles, sleep dysregulation, specifically mostly waking up in the middle of the night in between 2 and 4. So a lot of folks that I've talked to, especially women that are like getting into more middle age, that's very common, because the Vata time of day, we'll just get into that now. So what's so cool about Ayurveda is, it might seem like there's a lot of rules, but once you really grasp them, they become intuitive and it just makes sense. And so there's a Vata time of year, Vata time of life, and Vata time of day. So from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. and 2 a.m. to 6 a.m., it is Vata time. This is when Vata is a little bit more prominent in our day-to-day life. So if you're waking up between 2 and 6 and it doesn't feel like you're rested, like, it could be a little bit of Vata imbalance happening. 2 p.m. to 6 p.m., this is a great time for creativity, to tap into the positive aspects of air. And it's also a really good time to do the opposite. So what I mean by that is, when we're working in Ayurveda, we want to treat the opposite, meaning if you have a lot of Vata dosha, let's say you're a very Vata person. So the image on the left, these are folks who naturally have a lot of Vata in their physical form. This is called our Prakriti. This is how we were born. So, of course, we all have the doshas. Some have, maybe 5% kapha and they're really high Vata, or maybe they're equal in each dosha. These folks here are prominent in Vata dosha. So you'll see they have a little bit more of a slender form, a little bit more of a long oval face here. There's some wrinkles, drier skin. Okay, so this is just an example here, and not everybody is 100% Vata. But this kind of represents what we're talking about here, that drying, that cooling, that weightlessness, right? So lighter build, smaller bones, etc. A good way that you could check this really quickly is to just take your wrist here and you're just going to wrap the fingers around. Okay, so you take your pointer finger and your thumb and you just wrap it around. So for me, I have a little bit of a space there. Okay. If you're wrapping your fingers one on top of the other, that means you're prominently Vata in your Prakriti. So you have a more delicate bone structure. If you're like me, you're more medium build, you may be Pitta. So I'm very Pitta, and that's more of a fiery constitution that we'll get into in another workshop. If you have a really big space there and you have a little bit more of a larger bone structure, that could be Kapha. That's a really quick way to check. Okay, so the time of life of Vata is the end of life. So we start with Kapha when we're kids, when we hit puberty, all the way to menopause or to aging for men. This is our Pitta time of life. This is when a lot happens, families, careers, to-dos, right? Then we come into that third phase of life, which is menopause and beyond, that aging part of life. And this is beautiful because this is a time of life where people can become grandparents and they provide almost more of a wisdom or spiritual wisdom to their grandkids. This is a time where many people sort of rediscover themselves without the responsibilities of children and families every single day. You might still be, in the midst of child rearing and come into Vata time too. And that's great. It's just, there's a lot changing in your body. There's more drying, there's more lightness. Arthritis and joint pain is another big indicator of Vata dosha. So we don't have to be fearful of this. We just have to be aware so that we can bring the opposite, which would be more of that warm and grounding and unctuous, like that sort of juicy quality to remedy Vata. And then, of course, the season of Vata is fall and then early winter. All right. So I want to do a little bit of an exercise here so you guys can really understand the power of the opposite. So I talked about how the remedy is always the opposite. So if we add like with like, if we add air with air, if you are very Vata, you're having some Vata imbalance and you're eating dry popcorn with a granola bar every day, you're just going to increase that air, right? So we want to bring in the opposite. So a really good food for Vata would be something that's warm and grounding and heavier. So maybe I would give you mashed sweet potatoes with some ghee in it. That's really, really good for Vata, right? We're bringing in that opposite quality of earth and water. And we also want to bring that warmth. And we'll get to that in a moment with some spice recommendations for this time of year. But we really want to bring in that warmth. Okay, so in Sanskrit, we want to avoid V-yoga. So what do we want to take away from our life to bring more balance? We want to take away dryness and irregularity. We want to add Sam yoga. What do we want to add? Grounding, warming, and regularity to our life. Okay. So these are just some examples, right? If you're feeling like, and I want to make this really clear. Ayurveda, if you really study it and you want to be perfect with all the rules and everything, it might seem a little bit rigid. And that's not how I like to work with Ayurveda. I like to work with Ayurveda one step at a time, right? So, what are a couple little tiny tweaks and changes I can make that are going to work in my current lifestyle? It does not mean I have to give up all these 5 things at once and I only can eat from this food list. Like, we're not doing that here. Okay. So, these are just suggestions. Coffee, for example, is a lot on the nervous system. If you're a coffee drinker and you have a lot of Vata dosha, or you're just feeling that Vata in the season we're in, and you're feeling more of that restlessness, and like maybe you're not sleeping as well, coffee is a great place to start. If you drink it black, I recommend adding in some fat. So whether that's milk or ghee or a bulletproof coffee, we want to bring more fat so that it's not such a shock to the system and the nervous system. So that's a great place I love to start with clients, is instead of just removing their coffee habit, especially if they love it and they've been doing it forever, we take little baby steps to make it more, reasonable for them. So perhaps instead of 2 cups of black coffee in the morning, you do a cup of coffee with some ghee blended up, or some milk, or something that's a little bit more hydrating for the system, right? Because black coffee is very acidic. It's also very intense for the nervous system for many folks. And sometimes just removing your coffee, if you want to go that route, can really remedy a lot, including your sleep. So some other nice alternatives would be green tea or chai, or maybe something without caffeine, right? Or just, again, adding in to your coffee. There's a brand that I really love called Rasa, Rasa. They have a lot of Ayurvedic herbs in their blends, and they have coffee alternatives. One of them has a little bit of coffee in there. It's a dirty version. And I drank that for like 3 years as I was getting off coffee for different reasons. And it's nice because it still has a little bit of that caffeine. I drink chai now, so I don't drink any coffee anymore. Chai still has caffeine. So there are other options out there for you that could still feel really nice for your morning. All right, crackers and chips, very, very drying and airy, right? Light and dry, very Vata. So you might want to replace that with something more hydrating and unctuous with a little protein, like avocado, healthy fats, melon. Especially this time of year, Ayurveda loves cooked food. We don't love raw, we don't love cold, because this can interrupt the natural digestive process. We call it Agni, right? Our digestive fire. We want things in our digestive system to stay warm and moving. So if you have a lot of cold, raw foods, it just extremely slows down that digestive process. So instead of raw veggies, especially this time of year, look at cooked root vegetables, sweet potatoes, any sort of root vegetables are really good. Saute them, bake them, however you want to do it. Add some ghee, add some fat, and that'll be really nice to help with your digestive process and to help any sort of drying issues that are happening in your body. Cold smoothie. So smoothies, we love them, right? They're easy to make, they're quick. I really recommend, however, that you skip them this time of year, especially when it's cold. Now, if it's summertime or you live in a tropical place, go for it. If you're really, really in love with your smoothies, I'm not going to say don't have them, but I will say this, and that iced drinks, such as iced water, smoothies, anything that's frozen, again, it's going to freeze up our digestive fire, right? It's going to put out that fire. If you think about a bonfire, put a bunch of ice water on it, what's going to happen? So we want to keep that fire lit. If you want to do smoothies, or if you have a big smoothie addiction or love of smoothies, you can add things like ginger to help warm it up. You can add hot water. I know that sounds a little odd, and different ways to warm things up. But overall, I really recommend people just kind of skip the colder foods this time of year. This one is big, no routine. So if you don't have any sort of routine in your day, whether that's a daily meditation practice or even just walking your dog with your coffee every morning and having that normal routine that's regular and that's grounding. It's really good for our nervous system to have that sense of routine, and you're kind of just all over the place all the time. You're feeding more into that air element. So, establishing a daily routine, which in Ayurveda we call it dinacharya, which is this like daily commitment to how you want to live your life. Um, it's so important. Routine is extremely grounding. Even when I travel and there's more Vata, I try to, if I can, when I get to my hotel or my Airbnb, I have a ritual. I take a shower, I do an oil massage. We'll get to that in a minute. And I meditate or do some gentle yoga to help myself arrive where I'm at, right? These little routines that we do every day, whether it's, you have your morning drink and you just take a moment to breathe and be grateful for what you have. It could be a journaling practice. By the way, I'm running a program called Daily Practice right now. Doors are closing Friday if you're interested in learning more about that. Anyway, so having a daily routine has been a life-changing aspect for me personally, and I know for many, many people. Just establishing a daily routine may even be more, I would say, probably more powerful than just making a little bit of dietary shifts. So, see if you can commit to some kind of daily routine, whether that be a yoga practice, going to the gym every day, taking a specific nature walk every day by yourself to kind of ground, cooking your food. That could be really powerful. There's a million ways daily practice can look, but establishing that for yourself to really draw your energy back in, to ground yourself into where you are, is so, so powerful for Vata. Forgetting to eat, right? So Vata has kind of this variable appetite. We want to have those very regular times that we're eating every day to create more regularity. Feeling forgetful or overwhelmed. Think about a remedy you could do that's opposite of that, right? Maybe shutting down some things in your schedule, maybe taking 10 minutes to do a yoga nidra or meditate in the middle of the day to just feel that sense of coming back to yourself. So, especially if you live in a city or if you're around a lot of people and public transportation or traveling a lot, there's a lot of stimuli going on in your life. This is going to be really, really important to establish the opposite of that to help you stay regulated and balanced. Okay, this one is super easy and really important to remember. During the fall and the winter season, and you'll kind of notice as we go through this, a lot of this is very intuitive. And so, what we want to remember about Vata season is to stay warm. Number one, stay warm, stay regulated. So, if you could think about anything about Vata, you're staying warm and you're creating some sort of daily routine to keep you grounded. Vata tends to be up in the air. Makes sense, right? Air and ether. So we want to keep coming back down to the earth. We want to have a regular routine and we want to stay warm. So when you're going outside, make sure you cover your neck, your head, your ears. Make sure you have some socks on or some gloves. If you are like me and you always have cold feet in your house, this is especially good time to make sure you're always wearing socks. Stay warm. This is going to help contain that air without more air coming into the body. Food, we talked about this. Eating warm foods. This is a great time of year to lean on bone broths. If you don't do meat or anything like that, just root vegetable soups. Cooking your meals, adding in ghee. So if you don't know what ghee is, it's the pure version of butter without the and it's usually a little bit more digestible for folks. It's really nice for you. And then rituals. We talked about that, the routine. So I would love to invite you, if you have a notebook, just to maybe pause. If you're watching this later, you could pause and just ask yourself, do I have a daily routine that helps me feel grounded? And if you don't, that's okay, right? Maybe you did before and life got busy and crazy. When we're busy, that's when we really want to prioritize that daily routine. It does not have to be long. It could be 5 minutes every day. It could be a nature walk with your dog. You could still incorporate these routines into your life, even if you have kids, even if you have a really busy job. There's things that you can do, before or after your job or before or after your tasks that help you come back to yourself. I'll be sharing a really beautiful Ayurvedic practice here in a moment that is really good for this. But essentially, again, just think about this. Vata season is very light, dry, and cold. So we remedy that with heavier foods, or just kind of incorporating more of that cooked root vegetables, teas, things like that. Warm, 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 right? We want to stay warm. And then having that routine to come back to yourself. Really simple. All right. So let's get into a little bit more of herbs. So herbs are one of my favorite parts of Ayurveda. They've been one of my favorite parts of just my own healing journey, is really falling in love with nature to come back to myself, to feel like I'm more in control of my own body and my own life. So a rasayana, broken down, this is a Sanskrit word. So rasa is juice, essence, taste, sap. It's like this lust for life, this beautiful juiciness of life. It could be a beautiful song. It could be a beautiful tasting item, right? This is this like pleasure, what makes life rich and beautiful. And then ayana is our course, our path, our way or journey there. So these specific herbs that I'm going to get into is our path to feeling more of that juicy life. So we're going from, overwhelmed or anxious or cold to warm and juicy and regulated, this is what promotes longevity. This is what keeps us healthier as we get older, which is so important. We need to start doing that now because things add up over time, almost like a bank account. And so if we can do these little practices every day, you're going to be so much healthier as you get older. Rasayana also means that which nourishes. This is exactly what Vata needs. It helps promote longevity, rebuilds the body-mind connection, prevents decay. Remember, we talked about that deterioration, the decay, and it postpones aging. It sparks natural creativity, spontaneous delight, immortality of the mind, daily renewal of brain cells. In such a state, the mind and heart are as clear in old age as in childhood. And I would agree with that, because if we lived a certain way in our childhood, maybe that wasn't as aware or healthy, we can come back to health and really be supporters of our own health, really become our own health practitioners more than anybody else. Doesn't mean we don't go to the doctor and we don't take care of ourselves, but we know what to do when we're in specific seasons of life. And this is what Ayurveda is all about. These are unctuous mucilaginous herbs. So essentially they create more of a slippery mucilage coating in the body to prevent that dryness, to treat that dryness that's going on. Herbs and foods to bring the sap juice to our tissues, promoting longevity and well-being. I like to call rasayanas as a cousin of adaptogens. If you know what adaptogens are, great. They're very popular now. They're herbs to help balance our stress levels. And so a lot of the adaptogens are rasayanas. They're kind of intermingled here. Here's just a few examples. There's many, many, many rasayanas out there. It could be herbs, foods. Here's just a few examples. Licorice, this herb is very, very hydrating. It's really good for your digestive system. And it's also an adaptogen. So it's actually really good for your stress system as well. Fennel, also a great digestive herb. It's got kind of a sweet sap taste to it, and that's really hydrating for those tissues. Mint is another one. Honey is another one, right? That sweetness. Honey is a little bit more heating, whereas maple syrup is a little bit more cooling. I still have maple syrup every day in my drink because it's a hot drink and there's herbs in there. And I just love the taste. Maple syrup also has some minerals that are really important, but raw honey is extremely good for you. Just make sure you don't bake it or heat it too hot because it can become a little bit toxic, actually. So you want to make sure it's raw and you just put it in as a little adornment. Milk is another rasayana. So you may or may not be a milk drinker. I will say this, that raw milk or A2 milk is the best milk. This is what contains the digestive enzymes to help us actually digest the milk. The reason why so many folks have trouble is because the pasteurization process kind of burns that away, and we don't have those enzymes and probiotics to help us digest the milk. Kind of a different take there than what we've been told. Ghee is another great thing to add. So if you have a lot of Vata in your constitution, I would love for you to acquaint yourself with ghee. Maybe it'll become your best friend. You know, you can add that into a drink. You can add it into whatever you're eating, soup, stew, porridge, anything. A couple examples here. Vata. So this herb is one of my favorites. Ashwagandha. This is an Ayurvedic herb that comes from Asia. And it's a root herb that is really helping the body become more resilient to stress. So many of us have way more stress going on than, you know, what was going on a couple decades ago, because we were a lot more in tune with nature, living with the cycles of nature. Because we've been cut off from that, many of us with technology, artificial light, things like that, we're losing our natural connection to our circadian rhythm, our sleep cycles. We have more stressors because of technology. We have more on our plate a lot of times, right? Things are moving a lot faster than they did 100 years ago. So this is why a lot of these herbs are becoming popular now. They're not new herbs, right? They've been around for hundreds of years, but many of us need this ancient form of living in the form of an herb to really feel that sense of health and vitality. Pitta dosha, aloe vera, and then kapha L-campaign. Those are just some examples. There's many more. We're not going to get into the other doshas today. We're just focusing on Vata. All right. If you have any questions or want to say hi, you could say hi in the chat. If you're watching this later, perfect. And if you have any questions as you're watching this later, you can always just comment on this video and I will respond. You can also send me an email as well. I have that in the description. All right, here's a practice that I absolutely love. This is a cornerstone in Ayurveda. Ayurveda loves fat and it loves oil. Again, kind of counterintuitive of what we've been taught. I think there is a lot of folks now really recognizing the importance of healthy fats. A lot of people are going back to, you know, using like beef tallow instead of seed oils, things like that. And our ancestors used these oils as a way to nourish themselves, to clean themselves, and to stay healthy, especially during the dry seasons and cold season of winter. Abhyanga is this beautiful self-oil massage. And you could do a quick session for yourself every day. You can, you know, carve out space maybe once or twice a week to do a longer session. Traditionally, it is done first thing in the morning before a shower. You do the massage with oil, you meditate, do some yoga, and then you shower it off you don't really have to use soap except for specific areas of your body. And this helps to bring more of that hydration and that coating for the nervous system into your body. This time of year, sesame oil is going to be the oil of choice. It's a little bit of a thicker oil and you can heat it up a little bit and then just massage your whole body with the oil. So there's many ways to do Abhyanga. If you want more of a step-by-step tutorial, you could just check out YouTube. There's many videos on there. You could start at the feet and then go up the body. Traditionally, it's done at the crown of the head, coming down the body. I feel like there's no one right way. I think all of us have different preferences. And You could do it before your shower. That's a little bit more traditional, or you could do it after. I typically do it after as a way to sort of moisturize my body. So I do this every day, but it's usually pretty quick and fast. And I do a lymphatic massage as I do it. And I do this after my shower. You could do this before if you don't want to feel really oily. And there's different oils for different seasons. So if you are kapha dosha, if you're a little bit bigger boned, you might want to use a little bit of a lighter oil. But if you are Vata and you're in that Vata season, sesame oil is amazing. It's got that thicker quality to it. And essentially what you do is you just start at the soles of your feet or on the head or the face, and you just do these nice long strokes. So you do nice long strokes with the oil, get into the hands, get into all the little places. And then for the elbows and the knees, you want to do circular motions. This can be a self-care ritual. You can light some candles, put some music on, warm up your oil, and make it like a nice long 30-minute experience if you want to do that. Or you can make it really quick and it might feel really nice. And just sit in the oil and just meditate for a moment and just feel that sense of being held, that sense of almost like you're creating this natural barrier for your body against the elements, against stimuli, against stress, against excess air. This is really going to hydrate those tissues deep, deep, deep. So really, really good to do Abhyanga. You can also get this done professionally at different Ayurvedic treatment centers. Are a little bit harder to find. I haven't done it yet, but I want to do it at some point. And just as a reminder, oil in Ayurveda, in Sanskrit, translates to sneha, which one of the meanings of that besides oil is love. So it's like you're giving yourself this bath of love. This is great if you're grieving, if you're struggling with self-doubt or really working on accepting your body or loving your body. This is a beautiful practice to do. And I always think about, massaging an oil of, Isis or some of these more female goddesses or archetypes would do maybe back in the day. So this can be a luxurious treat you could do for your body that's actually really great for your health, your physical health, and your mental health too. With some 3 key spices that are beautiful this time of year. They're all very warming, and they're pretty much good for any doshic type. So 3 spices to warm you from the inside out. Chances are you have at least 1 or 2 of these spices at your home already. So I always encourage use what you have, and then if you want to get more, you could get more. If you're sourcing, try to always look for organic or local if possible. All right, ginger. This is our first herb. This is one of my favorite herbs. I take this every single day. It's pretty much great for any different constitution, and you can take it, fresh ginger sliced up. You could also do dry ginger as well. So I'm just going to read a little bit of this here. Beloved for its digestive, pain relieving, and respiratory benefits. Really good for this time of year. Ginger is an ancient herb that's been used in Asian dishes for centuries. In Ayurveda, it nourishes pretty much all constitutions and acts as a gentle warming spice with powerful effects. I put a little bit of ginger powder in my chai every morning. Often I will have some ginger after a big meal. And it's just this really beautiful warming spice that helps our digestive fire, our agni, work properly. And that's what also keeps us healthy. So when we don't have a lot of buildup of what we call ama, this is toxins, we have that fire that burns away the toxins, burns away, sickness, things like that, and keeps us healthy, keeps things moving, keeps things warm. It's a universal medicine, and it's one of the most sattvic herbs in Ayurveda. This is basically translates to pure light, really balancing for the body. As a digestive aid, ginger helps expel gas from the stomach and abdomen, especially after a big meal. So if you ate a little bit too much or you have excess air in the body, you might have belching or bloating. Ginger can really help with this. And most of us know ginger is also great for nausea. It helps relieve pain associated with arthritis, which is a very Vatic Vata condition, menstrual cramping, and circulatory issues. So it's such a great herb for Vata because it treats the cold and it treats that excess air in the body. Topically, it can help relieve pain. So you can make a paste out of it for headaches and acute soreness. You could sprinkle dry ginger powder onto your oatmeal or take fresh ginger juice with honey or lemon and warm water first thing in the morning for a daily health tonic. This is great this time of year, especially if you're around kids and you want to stay healthy. Ginger is a great way to keep things moving in the body, from your circulation to your digestion to just staying warm. A lot of gratitude for ginger. All right, next up we've got cinnamon. I absolutely love this. There's a reason that a lot of us are drawn to cinnamon this time of year, especially during the holidays. It's really nostalgic. It has this gorgeous smell to it, and it has actually a lot of health benefits. This is another great herb to have in the morning with your coffee, with your tea, on your porridge, on your toast, whatever you got. So especially if you like toast in the morning, that's fine. But you want to make sure you've got some fats so that it's not too drying, right? So maybe you want to put a little butter or ghee on there with some cinnamon. Perfect. It has an intoxicating smell and flavor, and that really points to its warming properties. It helps to boost circulation, promote digestion, and so much more. This one also, so all three of these herbs have a lot of similar qualities as I was working on this, and it's because they're all warming, and they are all, they're not warming to the point of being like spicy and aggravating with acid or anything like that, but they're warming to the point of really being great for this time of year. So it helps reduce bloating, indigestion, and gas. It helps promote healthy gut flora, and also it enhances your appetite. Really, really good. If you have a elderly parent who struggles with their appetite, you can look up cinnamon tea recipes and just kind of do some research on that. Obviously, if you're older, if you're taking a lot of medications, you'll want to just do the safe thing, talk to your doctor. But essentially, a lot of these spices are pretty, especially in moderation, they're pretty great and safe for pretty much anyone. Cinnamon was once used to help preserve food, which is really interesting. I learned that recently. So this is interesting because it gives it an antimicrobial and antioxidant property just as it is, right? It helps kind of gatekeep bacteria and bad things from coming in. It's also a really nice skin soother when used topically. Kapha, which we didn't get to, that's the combination of earth and water. So I always think of mucus as a very kaphic thing, which, can get more into later in the season. But it helps to break up excess kapha. So if you have a lot of mucus or anything like that, it can help with that. It's a great remedy for colds, cough, and congestion, and it contributes to overall immunity. Its anti-inflammatory properties make it a great ally for joint pain, kind of like with ginger, arthritis, and soreness. It may also help boost metabolism, regulate blood sugar levels, and contribute to heart health. These herbs have hundreds of benefits, and that's why I love them, right? It's not just for one thing. And there's a reason why nature made this. Instead of doing brown sugar in your oatmeal, you can put cinnamon instead and maybe have some honey or maple syrup if you'd like. Also really great for your coffee. It makes it a little bit more hydrating, believe it or not. Really great as a daily health tonic. All right, our last herb is cardamom. This is a very Ayurvedic herb that come in these beautiful little green pods. This is one of the best and safest digestive stimulants. Cardamom is an Ayurvedic must-have in your spice cabinet for an array of health benefits. If you are a coffee drinker, I know different Ayurvedic practitioners that if they do drink coffee, they usually add cardamom to it, and there's a reason for that. It helps to kind of offset the high caffeine a little bit, and it also helps kind of just neutralize things a little bit. So if there's a lot of, that acidic adrenal fatigue that can come from coffee, it kind of helps to offset that a little bit. So if you drink coffee, and we kind of talked about that earlier, you want to make it a little healthier, you can add some cardamom powder to it. Just like the other two, it awakens Agni, our digestive fire. It also clears excess mucus from the stomach and the lungs. So you might be seeing a pattern here with these herbs. It stimulates the mind and heart while emanating a sense of joy. This is sattva in Ayurveda. We just talked about this. Perfect herb for your coffee. It's also very carminative, so it helps expel excess air in the body, which is very Vata. So it helps relieve bloating, fullness, belching, and it treats those with high Vata. It's gentle yet powerful enough to help relieve nervous digestive upset in children. So digestion and our nervous system are very much intertwined, as well as our immunity, because our vagus nerve, which is the biggest cranial nerve that goes through the nervous system, that needs to be vibrant and healthy to keep us regulated. And so this herb can be really gentle and powerful for kids, especially if they have sort of that anxious stomach going on. Its antioxidant and diuretic properties may help lower blood pressure while promoting immunity. And its antimicrobial activity may help with periodontal infections and gum disease. Like, you can't make the stuff up. These herbs are amazing. Another great herb for any sort of oral health issues is clove. That's another good one. Also, if you're feeling sick, put a clove in your cheek overnight, and it's said to help cure whatever you got going on. That's another herb, though. So we talked about this. If you're a coffee drinker, you can start by adding a maximum of 1 teaspoon of dried cardamom powder in your morning cup to offset the high acidity and caffeine's adrenal depleting effects. Live. Thanks for hanging in there. I know that was a lot of information. All right. Beautiful. So I would love to wrap up here. If you have any final questions or anything else, you could pop it in the chat. I do offer a one-on-one program called Nourished. And this is a 5-month program where you will receive 6 one-on-one health consultation sessions, as well as 10 Ayurveda classes, a little bit similar to that, but even more in depth. So we're going to really get into what the heck is Ayurveda? What are the doshas? How do we live seasonally? How do we take care of our own health? And essentially, how do you become your own healer? Right? This is not to negate having a doctor or a therapist. Like, we still want to take care of ourselves, and we don't want to do it all by ourselves. But what can we do here and now to take control of our health? So you can even end the session by asking yourself that question in your journal. What is the one thing, whether it's something you learned from this workshop today or something you intuitively feel called to do? What is the one thing you can do this season that's going to improve your health? It could be your physical health. It could be your mental health, your emotional health. How can you allow yourself to really enjoy the season? One of the biggest pieces of advice I can give about the season is, for many people, and you may be in a line of work where this is your busiest season, and that's great. Lean into that. However, this is also a time when traditionally we were slowing down. We were coming around the hearth, the fire. This is not a time to be adding more to your to-do list. In fact, you want to have less on your to-do list. This is a time to really sit back and go more within yourself. This is more of a yin time of year instead of a yang time of year, and a beautiful time to nourish yourself, to sleep a little bit more if you can, to bring whatever you can into your life that's going to help warm you and that is going to help nourish you. And so that's where I'm at here. If you want to check out more about my one-on-one program I'm taking on clients right now, You could go to my website, earthintuitive.com. I'll put it here in the chat. And if you have any specific questions, whether it be from this workshop, my one-on-one program, anything like that, and you just want to email me or just hop on a call or anything like that, any questions, you can email me at brittany@earthintuitive.com. All right. Beautiful. Thank you, everybody, for watching this, whether you're live or whether you're watching it later. I really appreciate you being here. I'm going to be doing more of these. If there's a specific topic you're curious about, or specific questions about Ayurveda, or even like, I want to have a workshop on this, please let me know. You can email me. I'm really open to feedback. I'm curious what you guys are curious about in terms of Ayurveda, herbs, seasonal living, living with nature, women's health, nervous system health, all sorts of things like that. So, okay, cool. Thank you guys so much. And we'll just end this with a nice deep belly breath. Inhale. Exhale. All right. I will see you soon. Thank you.